Welcome everyone to the CFO Swinger Watch's technical analysis video for the week of March 18th through 22nd. Alright, let's get right into it. So the S&P 500 had a pretty critical week last week as we have officially broke below the daily 10 SMA and we closed below the daily 10 SMA. Now, obviously, as I've been saying for the past couple of weeks, in order to see a confirmed downtrend or a reversal to the downside, we need to see the price breaking below both of my momentum short-term 10 and 21 SMAs on the daily time frame. So on Friday, we were able to retest the daily 21 SMA, bounce off of it, and closed over the daily 21 SMA. And so we still have yet to see any type of an official confirmation that we are moving to the downside. However, this gap down between Thursday's close and Friday's open is a clear indication that the upside momentum is slowly slowing down. And just based off of the increase in the selling volume bars and or just the overall red volume bars for the past couple of trading days clearly indicates that there are a lot more people who are looking to sell compared to buy. And so this is what I wrote here for you guys. Alright, so the relative strength in leaders have been slowly diminishing but increased on Friday. Okay, so what that means is that the overall relative strength in leaders have died down, but the amount of leaders that have been seeing their relative strength diminishing have increased. And this occurred on Friday, right? And so, I still have my longer term, well, I would say mid to longer term target to this 477.50 whole number level, which is right down here, and it was also the previous all-time high level as well. If you go all the way back here, if it will load, okay, all the way back to late 2021 to early 2022. So, I still have my eyes set on this 477.50, and like I've said previously, if we do continue to move up higher and into new all-time highs, we will most definitely have to raise our floor here, and I will definitely have to move away from 477.50 and look for something much higher to continue to look for a validation of a potential textbook pullback. Okay, so now for this week, we do have the FOMC meeting from the 19th through 20th. So that's from Tuesday through Wednesday. So whatever I say right now, technical analysis wise on the S&P 500 may be invalidated. But what I'm expecting to see is that the markets will sell off and we'll eventually see an official close below the daily 21 SMA, and we will accelerate. Because usually when we do see an initial reversal, we tend to see an acceleration of the sell-off during the initial big move to the downside. And when we especially lose the daily 21 SMA, that's usually it for bulls as the tsunami wave of bears start to come in. And so right now is the perfect window of weakness for these shorts, these bears, to come in. And so we will have to see if they take this opportunity, this window of weakness, and see if they start to push the price lower. And so obviously this is all going to depend on what Jerome Powell says on Wednesday and everything else that I've told you guys in the market summary. So again, if you guys are watching this video before you guys are reading the market summary or the entire newsletter, make sure you guys pause this video and go back and read the entire newsletter from the top to the bottom. All right. And so for the S&P 500, lastly, if we do see a break below the daily 21 SMA, that means we will officially, finally break below this 509.80-ish level, or if you guys want to round up like we always do, 510 as the whole number level. And if we do break this 510 level, then we'll eventually head right into this previous all-time high level as well on the daily time frame, $503, 503. Now, if we do see a lot more selling coming in at 503, well, they're going to have to try a lot harder compared to, let's say, breaking below the 510 level here, because there is this nice large gap up that we have never filled in. And this gap up is going to be filled with buyers. And so in order for the sellers to kick out the buyers here, they're going to have to do a lot of work, and we'll need to see a lot of selling volume coming in. And so, last Friday, OPEX, we had this very large one-off volume on the daily time frame. Now, you guys can, discount it from your daily chart patterns or daily time frames for any ticker that you guys are looking at. If you guys do see this very large one-off daily volume candlestick here, or volume bar, but again, we can use it to our advantage based on our technical analysis. But in this case, I would say, since we were looking at a quarterly and triple witching OPEX, I would say it's not too relevant. All we need to know is what occurred last Friday. So, if it does benefit in some way to your technical analysis based on last Friday's candlestick and volume bar for whatever ticker you're looking at, or for our names this week, you can use it to your advantage. So for the S&P 500 here, I'm not going to really take into account of last Friday's volume. Rather, I will take a look at last Thursday's volume, because this was the official pop in selling volume, and we saw some pretty wild price action on Thursday of last week. And so I also want to mention lastly here that we've been seeing a lot more red volume bars, very large pops in red volume bars here. And so that's something to take note of. All right. So with that, I want to take a look at IWM, small caps. So you guys should already know that we have been short small caps last Friday. We got our nice starter entry point or position for this index. And first of all, as I've written here, right, so IWM is well off of highs when compared to the S&P or even NASDAQ. So in conclusion, it has a lot of room to move in just this year. And if you take a look at the weekly or even the monthly, we'll go for the monthly here. And then let me take out my lines here. We have really quite a lot of room to run, because both the S&P and the NASDAQ have gone straight up since, the start of this year, for the past over 2 months. So IWM here definitely has way more room to run if it decides to run it, and if it wants to run. So if you go back on the daily time frame now, based on that longer term perspective, I am still very much looking forward to an incredible performance and year for small caps, these laggards. So overall small caps and mid caps, but for our focus here, small caps. So for IWM, we're definitely going to be looking for a heavy position to go to the long side in the longer term once we see a pivot, because right now we're looking for a nice move back to the downside. And so for IWM, like I've explained on the Discord, the private Discord community last week, we need to break below this $201 to $200 demand area, this very tiny $1 range demand area, in order for us to break below finally the psychological $200 level, eventually retest the daily 50 SMA, this dark blue line here, which has now officially caught up to the price ever since we've retaken this daily 50 SMA back in November 14th of last year. And so, like I've always preached, right, whenever we see these longer term SMAs catching up to the price or the candlesticks, basically, it's a warning sign, right? Because we're supposed to be moving away from these longer term SMAs like the 50 and the 200. But for IWM, the 50 is essentially just crawling right behind the price here, and the daily 200 SMA is slowly creeping up as well and curling up higher. And so that leaves a lot of room for the sellers to come in hard and really just smash the price lower. And we want to be in this name when that happens. So that's the reason why we have started that position last Friday. Now, for IWM, I really love how last Friday we weren't even able to retake the daily 21 SMA and not even closing above or even slightly at the daily 21 SMA. And instead, we created a high after retesting the daily 21 and we closed slightly below it. And so this is not looking good for IWM, as the daily 10 is now starting to curl down and the daily 21 SMA is just starting to flatline. And so that means the overall bullish momentum is about to end. All right. So for IWM, our targets are basically our trend lines here that I've drawn for you guys. This nice ascending support trend line, or basically wherever we retest kind of the demand area, somewhere around 195 or to around 196 if you guys prefer exact levels. So again, I'm not expecting a complete crash on IWM. I just want to see a nice kind of a retest of this very large macro bull flag that's also observable on the weekly time frame, and then we continue to complete this chart pattern as seen by this price path structure that I've drawn a couple of weeks ago. All right, so with that is it with the markets. Let's take a look at our first name for this week, and it's CVS. So if you guys have been following me for some time now, you guys know that CVS was a very, very, very favorite name from last year, mid last year, and we actually did really well off of it. We collected some dividends as well. And so CVS has recovered quite nicely after seeing that horrible news back in, I think, so August 17th of last year. And so it seems like the price has completely now priced in whatever that news was. I don't really quite remember right now, but I do believe it was supposed to basically hurt their future business, the main business, the core business of CVS. And so, obviously the price is now really just discounted and priced everything in so far. But with CVS just absolutely holding here, up here, it seems really good to try to long this one this week. So I want to start off with the weekly time frame, and excuse the coyotes howling in the back. I don't know if you guys hear it from my microphone here, my very sensitive microphone. But if you guys do, my apologies. But CVS here, if you just take a look at this without any of my lines here, my technical analysis, this looks really good. I mean, we're starting to look to see a very nice rounding bottom. And whenever we have this kind of rounding bottoming shape here, we tend to just go straight up. A nice curvature move to the upside. Now, obviously, on the weekly time frame, we have yet to reconquer and reclaim the weekly 200 SMA, this yellow line here that I'm following along with my mouse cursor. But I love the fact that we have reclaimed the weekly 50 SMA, which tends to be a huge, huge crux on the weekly time frame for any name or ticker that is staying under the weekly 50 SMA. And you guys should know that because I've been really just hammering on the weekly 50 SMA back in 2022 on the S&P 500. So CVS definitely looks poised to break up higher this week. Plus, if the overall markets become defensive, the healthcare sector will be one of the major sectors to find some great inflows and great relative strength once the market decides to become very, very defensive this week, especially presumably after the FOMC meeting. Right? So with that, let's take a look at the daily time frame now. So we were looking to basically get a nice entry point over $78.10, because if you guys remember, a couple of weeks ago, or just late last month, we were looking at this name and this looked very, very good. But it turns out this chart was a little bit too obvious, as we were basically tightening up for about 2 weeks here, which is absolutely amazing. But during this time of consolidation, we formed this daily level at $78. And so if you were to look for a confirmed breakout, we need to be over this whole number level on the daily time frame. So that's the reason why I'm looking for an entry point, a long entry point over $78.10. Now, I don't want an early entry. I don't want an early entry that gives us a potential red to green move, because again, we're dealing with a very, very critical, even a more pivotal week than last week from OPEX, and we want to make sure that we have the official confirmation to grab an entry point to start a new position. So that's the reason why I only gave you guys one confirmation entry point over $78.10. Now, for price targets, I would say 79.20 it could be your first profit target. But if you do see some really good relative strength coming in for the overall health sector, and obviously to this individual company or this ticker, then we want to be able to ride the momentum up. And so we do not want to be taking profits too early, which means if you go back on the weekly time frame, my ideal and maximum price target will be on the weekly time frame $82. And guess what? Once the price presumably continues to move in our favor to the upside, and once we're able to reach $82 here, then I would assume this weekly 200 SMA has completely caught up to this $82 level, and will also coincide with the price retesting this $82 whole number level. So that's kind of my ideal world, where we see the price retesting $82 and also retesting and coinciding with this currently rising weekly 200 SMA. All right, so that is it for CVS, and our second name for this week is NUE. And so for NUE, I also want to start off on the weekly time frame. And if you guys have read last week's newsletter, last week's newsletter, so the first newsletter for this month, you guys should be kind of telling yourself, saying, this chart looks familiar. Well, because it is. So if you guys remember, we had this amazing swing trade idea that was executed perfectly as well, and that ticker was BLO. So that was an petroleum refinery name. It was an energy swing trade idea, and that one had a pretty great return, over 210% personally for me. And BLO has continued to provide us with that nice looking blue sky breakout. And that's essentially what I want to see on this ticker, NUE, which is a steel name, right? It's a company involved with steel. And so this is an overall basic materials play here. And NUE has been making very, very great strategic higher highs and higher lows. And even the last couple of weeks, it had a very constructive consolidation phase. And now, last week on the weekly time frame, it officially retested this weekly 10 SMA and closed way over the weekly 10 SMA. Now, the only thing that I did not like from last week's price action is that, well, we weren't able to retake the previous week's highs. I would love to have seen a close right underneath the all-time high level at 195.8. That's right. So the all-time high number for this ticker is sitting at $195 as a whole number. So what I would have loved is to see last week's high right in between the previous, so this candlestick's high of 192.76 and right in between, right under the all-time high number of 195. And so that would have been kind of the ideal, but we need to work with our reality here. So for NUE, in order for us to get an official confirmed long-term entry due to the same reasons I've outlined for CVS, I would say that we need to see a confirmed official entry point over 191.10 because we do have a nice weekly and daily resistance level at 191. So for this one, it kind of, it's very, very similar to VLO is what I'm trying to say here. And so for NUE here, what I want to see is a constructive push to the upside where we see increasing amount in buying volume, just like what we saw last week. But again, we had that one-off large volume bar on Friday. But in this case, like I've already stated a couple of minutes ago from the indices, that we can kind of take this to our advantage, this nice large weekly volume bar, and attribute it to our technical analysis here and contribute for a future prediction in the sense that if we do see a very nice push up this week, we need to see a larger volume bar at the end of the week compared to last week's volume bar here. And so again, I want to see a nice blue sky breakout on NUE where we continue to move to the upside for days on end, weeks on end, and months. So NUE, I really, really want to see a very textbook blue sky breakout like we've been seeing so far on the other swing trade idea, VLO. Right now, again, if you want to take a look at the past here, NUE has been making a huge macro ascending triangle. So you guys should be able to see this without even me drawing this. But all right, so we have a very nice, it's a very crude drawing here, but a very quick one at that. So we have a very nice large macro ascending support trend line, and this entire base up here right underneath all-time highs has been forming since early May of 2022. All right, this is when we really just pushed lower and closed below the weekly 10 SMA, and that's when we started to consolidate here. And so this is a multi-year base, specifically an ascending triangle chart pattern, and this is very, very similar to VLO. And so for NUE, again, if we're able to really just break out of this multi-year consolidation as we continue to sit tightly underneath all-time highs here, we should be able to see a very, very large blue sky breakout. And as long as we continue to see the weekly 10 and the weekly 21 SMAs supporting the price up higher, we will continue to move up higher day over day, week over week, and month over month. All right, and last but not least, we have IE. So IE, so this one's kind of unconventional for charts focus one swing trade ideas. Why? Well, number one, IE is currently sitting at all-time lows price ranges. And this one is also a recent IPO. Right, so it's been over a year, but the weekly time frame here looks very, very tiny compared to other stocks or even just the names that we have for this week. So I would still consider this one as a baby. So IE definitely has a lot of risk involved, but we won't be really concentrating on the longer term risks because we're not investing into this one. Instead, what I want to do is look at this one on a shorter time frame or shorter period here and take a look on the daily time frame of this very, very nice micro momentum bull flag. So what we have here is considered a momentum bull flag because when we see an initial impulsive move or break to the upside, so in this case for IE, we broke over $8, right? This $8 whole number level, and we saw an immense amount of volume coming in as well, which is over the average daily volume. And this is also another factor as to the reason why this is a very unconventional charts focused one swing trade idea, because the volume, very, very dismal volume, very illiquid on the daily time frame. All right, so we even had a day like last week on Tuesday when we had an average volume of 478,000 while we had the daily volume itself only at 191,000. All right, so 191K. So it's not looking too good volume wise, but that's the reason why I prefaced this name as an unconventional swing trade idea. So we're not really going to focus on that though. We're going to focus on the fact that this is a very nice momentum bull flag. So after this break over this $8 whole number level, we got a nice retest of the daily 50 SMA, and then we held over the daily 50 SMA, and then promptly after that, we continued to tighten up really, really well on top of the daily 50 SMA. So this is a very, very good bullish signal, and thanks to the consolidation, we're able to see the daily 10 SMA catching up as well. And so last Friday, we got that official retest on the daily 10 SMA, and rather than failing the retest and moving below the daily 10 and eventually breaking below the daily 50 SMA, invalidating, which would have invalidated this momentum bull flag, it had a very nice jump to the upside and closed at highs and over the previous day's highs. And also, if you go on the weekly time frame, the entire price action of last week created a very nice inside candlestick within last week's price range. All right, so whenever we see an inside weekly candlestick, that means that the following week we can see a continuation of the current trend. And what is the current trend? Well, the current short-term trend is to the upside. And so basically what I'm trying to get here is that we want to be able to play the short-term breakout move to the upside, the second leg up move to the upside, because the first leg up was the initial breakout. And so based on how the price reacted on the daily 10 SMA last Friday, I would assume that we can continue to move to the upside and have a nice second leg up higher, a second impulsive move up higher until we reach double digits. And so again, that's another third factor as the reason why this idea is a very unconventional idea for Charts Focus 1 here, because it's a single digit stock. So it's a single digit stock, it's a recent IPO, and also the volume is dismal, very, very illiquid. So for IE, what I want to see is either a very quick scalp to the upside or a day trade to the upside, or simply a very nice quick overnight swing trade to the upside. And our entry points are either going to be over the previous high of the day, so over Friday's high, or if you want more of a confirmation, you can be over 9.50. Okay, so 9.50 is the daily whole number level, and if we're able to break over this level, then we'll get our official confirmation of over $9.55, and eventually we can see a retest of this double digit share price number of $10. And this stock is probably getting magnetized towards this double digit number, and so it should be a pretty easy and pretty quick swing trade to the upside. Now, if we do see more momentum coming in, there could be a potential short squeeze like move, which is the reason why if we do have a nice short squeeze like move, then we can see a nice retest of this weekly level at $11. So that's a pretty large increase just from last Friday's close. It's almost 20%. And so we want to be able to take in as many profits, but as quickly as possible because of the risks that are involved in this name that I've outlined a couple of seconds ago. And, IE here, it is a copper name. So if you guys remember, we had a pretty successful trade, a swing trade on FCX, which is another, but a more popular and more liquid copper name. And so IE as a copper name should continue to move to the upside as well with the rest of the copper group, and we should be able to capitalize on the potential opportunity to be involved in a short squeeze like move back to the double digit share price numbers. All right, so that is it for this week. If you guys enjoyed this technical analysis video, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up down below. And if you guys aren't subscribed yet, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button as well. But on top of that, make sure you guys hit that notification bell to stay on top of the recently uploaded videos or to know when I am live. All right, so I'll see you guys tomorrow morning and good luck.